They are out of control. Table one shot. It's kind of wild. That's the wildest, but it's not gonna happen. It's. Down. Where's Alan? Alan. Their song was.
I constantly, what's 10 days?
Eyes of Mark.
Green beers.
One.
Join I say, bless this food to our use, us to thy service. Amen. Amen. The buffet is now open, and ladies and guests, and we have several guests, including my daughter and Tammy Holloway. So, yeah.
No. Your high card. Way to go, man. Hello, Ken. Oh, your reading's doing good. I need to. How's your reading go?
There's two drawings. One determined. Two defense. Did you find? We'll all. New York City, and then the first year at the highest. We'll get. Then the Henry Winwoodson, which is currently in well, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow. I mean,
And with the road.
right in or right.
This meeting by introducing some guests. And I believe, yes,
Bill.
you're Bill.
Bill.
You're with, you're,
I got
good.
Bill tells me this is his third time here, but
Uh-oh.
I understand. He's
Still
getting
new.
close. Yeah. Hey.
Bill. What's his name? Yes, I hope someone might be proposing him as a member soon.
We'll be talking about it.
What's it? Do you jump on the
Right. Formula One race car.
My daughter. From time to time, Julia is actually taking a week in between getting her credentials as a physician's assistant and getting married on the 24th. And she will be employed after that. So, who's going to be our speaker? Oh, Karen, I'm sorry. Karen Jolly Davis is making a return appearance and is also soon to be proposed as a member.
Whoa.
Yes, exactly. And is already speaking up a newspaper project at Northampton High. We'll see, still very much in the
Early stages.
yeah. Clearly, someone with a heart for service and things. So, with that, I think it's time to go into happy dollars. Who's happy today? Jim.
50 happy dollars.
Whoa.
Yesterday was the 50th anniversary. I finished the fourth.
Well, congratulations. Thank you very much. So, who else? There was many. Great. All right. How many people have seen the walking tour? Oh, good. Okay. So,
How happy that he was.
$20. $20 head. Yeah. Yeah, very happy Rotarians here. So the link, did we send the link just went around, right? I highly recommend send it to you. 12 stops, very well researched. Lots. The funny thing about the funny thing about the website is these days it is so comprehensive that you're almost better off taking the walking tour at your computer where you can see all the pictures, listen to all the recordings. There's the Google Earth spin around 360-degree view of everything. And part of the hard launch is we're going to come up with another site that's really targeting single parents with 2 kids and a cell phone to get them around. But it's a great project. Highly recommend it to you. Who's next? Bill.
I have 5 happy dollars because Bill Murphy has had surgery recently.
Oh.
And yesterday he was out walking with Mary Jo. Not a long distance, but he's out and about.
Good. Bravo. Bravo. Okay. Thank you very much.
Was it on his foot, Bill? Was it on his foot?
We're not talking about that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, let's see. Do we have any announcements for the order? Yeah, Paul.
I have some announcements, and I now have permission from 2 members to tell a little more about what's going on with them medically. One of whom is Bill Murphy. I had long talks with Bill Murphy and with Reggie Woodgen in the last couple of days. And some of you know what's going on with one or both of them already, and they haven't wanted this to be general knowledge. But they've now both told me that they don't mind, and they would like for this information to be shared with the Rotary Club, and of course they would appreciate any prayers that might come their way. The best news is Bill Murphy, who there's 2 things in common with these. One is prostate cancer, and the second is John Hopkins. But they've both been there, and Bill Murphy had a prostatectomy up there with done robotically by somebody who's done thousands of them. And he says it's a success, and they're very positive about the outlook, that there's no spread of it, and they got it all out. So that's really good news. And Bill told me that he hopes he'll be back next week to a meeting. Reggie doesn't have quite as positive a story. Reggie has metastatic prostate cancer. Again, I've known this for a while, as have several members, and he didn't really want this to be widely known, but now he said it's okay. And he has had chemotherapy, he's had radiation therapy, and now he's getting a new therapy that was just approved by the FDA within the last year or so, which involves injecting a radio pharmaceutical that seeks out prostate cancer cells and kills them. And he just had that treatment within the last couple of days. Came home yesterday, and this is something he'll get every 6 weeks, and they have an ongoing evaluation. So Reggie needs all of our prayers, and we would appreciate it.
And how many happy dollars did you want to put it down?
Okay. I want to.
Yeah, please keep, good, please keep close with it. We'll get a card out. So watch for that next week. Anything else? Good of you? Then I think it is time for us to invite our speaker, Tammy Holloway, up. Tammy barely needs an introduction, but for those of you who have been living under a rock, this is the town council person who won by the greatest majority in the last election. The elected most popular. Thank you, Tammy.
You're very welcome. Good to see all these faces. I've worked with so many of you over the years in different projects and different volunteer activities and spent social time. But it's always good to spend time with a group that's near and dear to my heart. Some of the things I'll talk about today, Rotary was at the core, or is always at the core of. So I value and brag about this organization so often that it's good to be here on Tuesday to visit with you. I think many of you guys can relate to this slide that I have here that started things off, and that is the path life takes you. Is it chance or fate? And I think many of us who chose to stay in Cape Charles as we grew up, that's a fate decision in itself. But many of us, by chance or by fate, we found Cape Charles in a different way and over time. So I'm going to tell a little bit about the story of us, my husband Jim Holloway and myself, finding Cape Charles. We've certainly helped a lot of others find Cape Charles, including Mr. Rich here.
Very true.
But it's near and dear to us for many reasons, as it is for a lot. When Mehdi asked me to speak, jokingly, kind of like what Jim said, what do you want me to talk about? Like, which hat do you want me to wear? So we're going to talk a little bit about that along the way. So pretty much who I am, I'm born and raised Virginia. And these are things that you may not know about me. You may know things I'm involved with or things I've done, but I thought I'd go a little deeper and tell you a little bit about who I was. I graduated from Radford University with my undergraduate and master's degree. My master's is in counseling, and that certainly has come in handy later in the phase of life that I'm at. So you laugh when you connect that together. But my background with my counseling degree, I worked in higher education. I worked on 2 small private liberal arts colleges in Pennsylvania, and I was the director of student activities. And I bring that up because I think it's one of the, especially Franklin and Marshall, which is about 1,800 students, it's pretty much like Cape Charles. And it took me a couple of years after we were here to figure out why I loved it so, because it kind of had the students and the administration and the faculty and all of those dynamics that I always loved so much in working together. They just have different names here. And I went on that. I didn't put it in here. I kind of skipped over it, but it was 6 years of my life. I started a production company, an event production company. And that's how I really got involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I was trying to help because of my work at Franklin Marshall College and my production and my love for the community. I wanted to bridge the gap between the two. As you imagine, when you're in a college town, if you've ever lived in one, it can be both wonderful and challenging. Kind of like tourists and residents, it's similar again. The town gown relationships were always something that were important to me, to men. But that's how I fell in love with chamber work. And I share that because I then went on to get closer back to home. I'm born and raised in Yorktown, Virginia. My dad was sick back in 2001, and I wanted to get closer back to home. I love Pennsylvania, but I wanted to get closer to home. And so, lo and behold, I thought I was just going to visit with a fellow chamber member that I had met. And by the afternoon, here I am in a snowstorm day. I had snow boots, jeans, a little bit. I'm going through. She goes, "Well, I want you to meet our president, and I want you to meet. Did you sit in on this meeting?" And I'm like, "This is weird." The next day, she calls and offers me a job, and I was like, "Oh, I was in like a sweater and snow boots." When you go for an interview. Anyway, that brought me to the American Chamber of Commerce. And for those of you who don't know what that is, we're not the political one. We're not the one in DC that does all the important lobbying and all of those things. We're the ones that take care of other people who do chamber work across the country. So chamber executives, people who run chambers, communications people. And my job was really to tie all of those things together and help them do their jobs better. So connecting people. And I share that because I think it's the core of who kind of I am. What makes Tammy tick? This is me as a little gardener. For my new roots folks that are here that I've kind of grown up with, that's where it started very, very early. And I got my Master Gardener certification in 2007 back in Prince William County when we were living in Woodbridge. And I kind of consider myself a gatherer of people. We joke a lot at the house that I play well with others. On my little report card in second and third grade, it also said Tammy could use more focus on sitting at her desk rather than socializing. That is who I am today. That just put a second grade report card, tell it all, right? I'm a consensus builder and harmonizer, master of fun. I like to really spice things up and have some fun in just about anything that I'm doing. Expressions of creativity. I have a very strong work ethic. I was raised in a home where it was a small business, second generation egg farmer. My dad was, so we learned good work ethic from the core, and I think that carries out in everything that I certainly put my heart into. And I like to overcome obstacles, and sometimes obstacles are funding, and we can't afford to do that, or we're too, we don't have enough resources for that. And many of you, I look around to see. One of the things I should have put on here too is I like to get free money. That's my big thing. How can I make our money double if that's the case? So how it all began. So my husband Jim, hopefully you guys know him as well, grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. So we started to make some road trips back and forth to Roanoke because we lost his mom, Miss Polly, unexpectedly. But she had a wonderful life of travel and all those things. But we were going back and forth, and in doing that, it started to make us have conversations. We're living in the rat race of Woodbridge outside of DC. How do we change that? And so when you're in the car, you have all kinds of dreams and all of those things. So one in particular is we got pushed off of 81 on the last trip home from closing up his mom's house. And we had been talking about how if we did a B&B, we needed to be near something, a winery, a ski resort or something like that. We got pushed off of 81 and all of a sudden we're on Route 11. Some of you guys have made that path before. We came up on this great house, a little federal old brick home, and Jim's like, that would work. And I was like, yeah, it was near a couple of things. We don't even remember what the name of the town was. Like, it was so like a corner and it's done. So Jim comes home from work the next day. We just go on with our trip. He comes home from work and he goes, I can't find that house anywhere. And I'm like, what house? I thought it was just a car conversation. He was so I was like, oh, okay. You remember what town he was in? And he didn't. So I typed in historic homes that could be B&Bs in the state of Virginia. In the house that we have on 403 Tesla. And I'm like, the beach. Because I'm a beach girl, he's a mountain guy. So I'm like, oh no. And I minimized, I'm not supposed to be looking at that. And so I kept looking, I must have 2 hours. And I opened this one back up and I'm like, oh, what the heck. I copied the link, sent it to him at work. The next day he comes home, he's got all this printed out materials. I was like, oh my, we're far beyond the car conversation here. And lo and behold, he said, do you know where this is? And I'm like, it seems familiar. And he goes, it's on the Eastern Shore. If we had a boat, we could just go shoot right across to your mom's. And I'm like, Eastern Shore. Years since I lived in your town. So the divine intervention, and this is where that chance or fate comes into mind. We dig deeper into it because we're curious, and we find out that the house is on 403 Tazewell. Well, Jim's mom was born and raised in Tazewell, Virginia. Yeah. We're like, okay, we hear ya. We know we're supposed to take this a little bit further. I've never even heard of Tazewell until I met Jim. So the fact that this was on Tazewell Avenue, we all know, those that live in Bay Creek in particular know some of that special connection to Tazewell. So we joke next, and I'll tell you a little about if you clear it, it will come. Because when we bought the house, we looked at the house in winter. We left the rat race of of DC traffic and trade that in for a golf cart. And that was the first priority. And that will be funny when I show you this next slide because I'll show you that slide in a second. So another thing of fate and alignment. So Jim and I met on eHarmony, and we got married in 2006. And our wedding reception was at the Mariners Museum in Newport News. We fell in love with that because this beautiful lighthouse was shining through the reception space. We loved it. We thought it was great. 5 years fast forward, we moved to Cape Charles, and I'm sitting with Tom Bonadeo, and he's showing me some historical pictures. And he shows me that the Fresnel in the Mariners Museum is from the Cape Charles Lighthouse.
Wow.
Okay, so 5 years later, I was oh, the Mariners Museum is really nice. And he starts telling me, I was like, yeah. But when I say if you clear it, it will come. This is what our house, if you're not aware, looked like when we got here, pulled up in June of 2011.
Yeah.
Some may ask, what house? The good news is the structure, 1906 it was built, was in fabulous shape, really good shape. But because it had been so overgrown, the porch was rotten completely. So our job was to tame the jungle. Again, I said I looked at it in January. Things don't look quite like that in January. So you can imagine our surprise when we showed up in June. I'm like, that's some work ahead. And as Jim, if he were here, he'd say he's the master helper and I'm the master gardener. He's not scared of hard work. There's my mom and Jim. Mom was 75 at the time, and I was going to be turned in for elder abuse because she works hours every weekend. Jim was still in his first 6 months. We weren't able to get his job. We were too young to retire, so we needed to work for a living in some way. And so Mom would come over from Yorktown and work with me, and then Jim would come for the weekend, and we'd save all the big things. Okay, we need a reciprocating saw, we need all of those types of things to kind of come along. And then this is what it would look like after every weekend. The pile, we knew we could stop when the pile was taller than I could throw. And town public works came to pick that up every Monday and took it. And I figured it out after the first 2 weeks. I was like, they showed up with their chipper shredder. I was like, oh, this is really embarrassing. So I was like, okay, we gotta lay it the right way so that when they lift it, it's easy. So we would like strategically kind of place it. So if you've seen the property since then, you know it's changed a little. So this is what it looked like when we cleared it out from the beginning. So this is when we first started to think. I just think it's kind of fun because it's 12 almost 12 years later, and to see kind of that transformation of doing that. But this is what she looks like now, although that's even an early picture too, because that palm tree there to make it for the wasps. They're coming in for you. So successful business. We didn't a year and a half before we started and branded the Bay Haven Inn. And from there, we were fortunate to provide kind of a background for people to enjoy this wonderful place. And the goal is to kind of create an exceptional experience for guests. You do that through true, genuine hospitality. If that comes from your heart, people know that. We do it a lot through food. And that has certainly helped. And we create kind of that atmosphere that people can kind of let go of everything that they've left behind. And we serve as the concierge, obviously, to the town. These are just, when I talked about having fun, Jim and I believe in having fun. And these are just a couple of glimpses of things that we've done over the years. And this is a one fun idea that I thought I would share when you talk about memorable and making a lasting impression. You know, I thought about what are things on the shore that are kind of unique, and clam shells came to mind, and oyster shells. And at that time, I guess this was maybe back in 2014, maybe 15, selfies were just kind of getting going, and they were really popular. So we created a branded opportunity and called these shelfies. So guests decorate a shell and take a selfie with it and post it. Well, I did a blog on this, and the Huffington Post picked it up.
Whoa.
So it just goes to show you how little projects or little ideas can plant seeds to grow for the future. We were certainly very excited by that. And this is kind of just a look of the gardens. People love our gardens. People come to just enjoy them. I have to be careful because when they're sitting on the porch, sometimes they feel guilty that they're not working if I'm out there working in the yard. So I have to work in like back areas or different ways so they don't feel guilty kind of in doing that. They all want to help, which is lovely. And then I talked a little bit about food. We've really made a reputation of a couple of things that we're known for. There's a couple people who have stayed here with us that might be familiar. Our sweet potato ham biscuits have quite the recognition. We got recognized by the state of Virginia early on for those. But the biggest thing is we made it into bedandbreakfast.com had a huge March Madness competition for food. It was by regions. And we made it, we represented the Eastern region in the Final Four on that with our sweet potato ham biscuits. So that was kind of an exciting, again, another way to kind of get some recognition for what you do. Good thing we already ate because I'm making you guys all hungry, I'm sure. We try to just kind of diversify that up a little bit. And we've got some good recognition along the way because of that. That's Jim, if you don't know him. And so I'll take a couple steps back. So we got here in 2011, we opened in 2012, and we opened along with these other 6 businesses that you might be familiar with that are cornerstones of who we are in Cape Charles. And I share that because it's kind of started my love for helping pull people together. So we pulled businesses together, restarted the Cape Charles Business Association, and built strength kind of in doing that. And worked along as each of these, as you look at, have outstanding recognition on their own nationally. And if you put those 6 together kind of to build that momentum, it's hard to kind of think back to that those were the core. But they came, and I always like to say this because I see some of you in the crowd that were a part of this. You know, we were maybe the 3rd level of the foundation that had been built. It all started in the 90s with folks who had a vision for this town to go to another level. You know, a handful of folks that really believed in it and took chances and took risks. And then, you know, along the way in 2000, we added Bay Creek that adds another opportunity for living choices for people. And as you build more through that, we hit the crash, but nobody gave up. Everybody said, okay, we can do this. It's tough times, but we can move along. You know, when Jim and I came into the picture, there was 50% the houses still needed to be done, and 50% of downtown was empty. But think about it, what is the 90s? It was 90% like that. Talk about visionary. So I always like to, when I talk about this slide, talk about those who came before us, because they built the foundation that we could be successful to get here. So this talks a little about that rediscovery and the foundation of where we are today. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of that marathon. So, you know, to look at 2012 and then you fast forward to 2015, 16, the momentum was starting to really build. And I was able to be a part of the inaugural start of what was then the Community Enhancement Board, right? That was the beginning of Main Street as an affiliate program. We found this program that we thought this could really help Cape Charles. We could get funding, facade support, help these businesses get started and revitalize our downtown. how can we build that so that the beautification projects are there and all of those, and Main Street was the answer to that. So we applied to be a fully designated community, and in doing that, it took several years to make that happen. We officially got recognition and designation in 2020, right during the pandemic. No time to celebrate because they're all like locked up together. So we did cheers on the phone together. A lot of hard work, and Bill Strand is our president of Main Street today. I led the role for 2017, I guess, until last summer, and I'm in the past president role, which turned it over to great hands, and I'm hanging around for some help if they need it. But this was really a turning point. This was in 2018. And what I like to say that I like to do kind of fun and crazy things. When I came up with the idea to do a golf cart ribbon cutting ceremony, and we had 60 golf carts participate, and we had the governor fly and land in Central Park. That was quite an unusual event, but the state of Virginia really embraced it. The town embraced it in the Eastern Shore. We had media on all of those carts and different ones of you. I see some faces here who volunteered to drive a cart to help get people along. And we went to 14 businesses that day. The governor had an hour and a half to do that. Now he and Jim have some commonality. They went to VMI together. He graduated in 1981. So we had a little VMI reception in the morning before he went out. And at the end of the day, there at the brewery where we are today they were celebrating a grant, a no cost, no interest loan that they had gotten to build this program here. And the governor came up behind me and he said, "I don't know who went to VMI, you or your husband." Tammy's bossy pants. Jill loves that story, but all along when he would be talking too much or visiting too much, I just touch his lower back and kind of move him along. And I thought that was pretty humorous. As we talk, we kind of alluded to, Jim does the Tammy with many hats. So we talked a little bit about that. I sometimes forget that I'm a business owner, so I'm glad I started with that today to talk a little bit about the Bay Haven Inn, which is certainly how I spend the majority of my time, and it's where I meet the most unbelievable people. And to do that is incredible. And I brag about all of you, and many of you here today have different roles. I look over at Katie and the role she plays with the town and how she's taken us to such levels. It's just incredible. You know, I look at Ken now joining the town as well, and the town council. You know, Paul and Bill Murphy from my early days of New Roots Youth Garden. That was probably one of my very, very first hats that I wore, and loved it tremendously. I was able to do that with Kathy Bonadeo in the early stages, which was just a very special time. So just along the way, I like to have fun, as you can tell, but I wear several hats, and one of them is town council. These are just a few of those things that I've helped with along the way. One of the things I do for the town of Cape Charles as town council is I'm the representative to the Eastern Shore Tourism Commission. So we really help bridge the gap of everything working together. How do we complement one another? How can we take a guest experience that's staying in Chincoteague, but get them down here to visit in Cape Charles for the day, or vice versa, and working through that. I just joined Riverside Shore Memorial Hospital Board. I've been doing that a year, and that is educational. You know, it's very exciting for me because it's so out of my wheelhouse, and I'm learning a lot and enjoy that quite a bit. I'm really working hard. And Rick, Mr. Hubbard here, is on the board with me, but we're the only two Northampton people. We're going to do something about that. They don't know. They realize by inviting me in that we're going to bridge the gap a little bit doing that. So I'm going to be calling on Rick to see what we can strategize.
Isn't Betty Gibbons on that board?
No, Rural Hill.
Oh, rules.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the Riverside is a wonderful hospital and it serves us so well. But really, a lot of folks in Northampton County don't know, in particular Cape Charles. You know, my joke forever, and I can't say this anymore since I am on the board, is take a right at the light. Tell Jim, if there's anything that happens to me, take a right at the light. And he knows that. And I'm like, you need to forget that for now. Don't say it out loud. Mainly because he's retired military and we have military insurance. So across the bay is where we need to go anyway. But it looks a little bit like some of the things that I have done along the way. All of them are special and near and dear to my heart. I think New Roots is one of the most special to me. I remember talking to you and Gloria when you were at the house, and that's what kind of sucked Gloria. And they only stayed with us one night. Talking about New Recruit Garden, you talk about the blessing of the worms, and you got everybody. You know, we're in that town if it's you're going to bless worms, right? So I'll be glad at the end to answer any questions about any of these things that you might have. And I'm going to buzz through a couple more things. I think it's really important to have like the excitement that I'm sharing with you today to engage a community to want to do things. You know, people don't necessarily want to commit a project for 2 years, but they might want to commit to help with parking. And that's one of the things we've counted on Rotary for years, is that you guys are good service volunteers. If we have a need, I always say, check with the Rotary, they might be able to help. Because that's what and you're an example of that in everything that you do. And we appreciate that your town. We may not tell you that enough, but it's something that we certainly count on. So these are events that I had a little hand in starting. So it does tell you a little bit about my quirky personality. Art Rocks the Ends, the Cookie Trail, Virginia's for Lovers celebration for the Summer of Love. I got a great grant to do that and get us involved. Golf cart parades, in particular, the lighted golf cart parade, porch happy hours, Festa Fridays, which has just evolved into that's such a success story. That started off, I'll tell you just a little side note. We had all these events that were happening, and there was no calendar or no one place that all those holiday events were happening. So I said, let's just put it together in a brochure that first year, 2013. And we're like, okay. So we put it together, and we didn't have anything on a Friday. And so we were trying to come up with something that we could do on a Friday. And I was like, oh, we'll just do Festa Fridays. That's how the name came about and evolved from there. How can we draw in visitors in the off season to help our restaurants and businesses sustain through the year? That was the goal of that event, but it really was by happenstance. So, you know, it's just an example of don't overlook kind of the obvious sometimes in front of you and think beyond that. And gosh, you look at that, it's going to be 10 years this year that Festa Fridays is celebrating, and look where it was this past year. It just took it to a whole new level, much because of partnerships with the town, with Cape Trails Main Street, who produces that event, and all of the businesses working together to make that happen. Blessing of the Worms I talked about, and Love Fest, which has become kind of our Labor Day celebration. That evolved from the Summer of Love event, and one that we kept. And we're able to get some good grant money for several of those projects through the Northampton County Tourism Commission. So if you're disgruntled about how much your taxes went up, we're getting some of that money back, don't you worry. No matter what, we go for it. We were like, okay. So I always joke and say, my taxes went up 53%. So how much of that can I get back in these programs? So Cape Charles is getting some of that back in different ways, not in our individual pockets, but at least it's giving back to the community that we live in. These are just some pictures from some of those fun events. That's the Cookie Trail. We make over 3,000 cookies for that event. And we have Santa there, so you should have to never come. Art Box Stand, I'd like to get this started again. The B&Bs decided they didn't want to do it as a group. Really trying to get this restarted in another way. And actually, the way I want to start it is on August 26th. It's Worldwide Play Music on Your Porch Day. So I'm going to work with the town and some others to try to get a small committee together to see if we can do something with that. How fun would it be if people just have music on their porches in front of their businesses, whatever it might be, and just evolve and see where that event kind of evolves to. Nothing too structured, just like, hey, if you want to have somebody play on your porch, have them. Let us know, we'll put it on a list. So that's an example of kind of how that momentum, and the concept came to me from the Art Rocks the Ends, because I missed that event. It was really, really a great event. So I'd like to kind of see if that music event can turn into an art event eventually too, and get that back. Okay, so if anybody knows me, I couldn't resist in putting this slide up. No, I'm not telling the story of the help. I don't want you guys to all put toilets in my front yard, but I am obsessed with clean commercial bathrooms for the public restrooms. And I have been for probably 6 years. It's become almost the laughing joke at town council when the word bathroom comes up, everyone looks at me, because I'm going to have an opinion about why we don't have them, how are we keeping them clean, and what we're doing. And the town staff over the past 3 years have just been incredible in understanding that the research shows that if someone is going to spend time in your downtown community, both residents and visitors, they will spend 2 times longer in your downtown. So if they're going to spend 2 hours, they will spend 4 hours if they're public restrooms and benches. 70% of that support comes from Main Street, National Main Street, that data, that 72% of people will stay double the time that they were planning on staying. Of course, parking is the other issue in there, but I always talk about the benches and the bathrooms. So we're getting there. We're coming along. I wanted to share some exciting news. The other kind of, this next slide kind of fits the two together, and that's the train that is saved over on the railroad land. It is now, we joke that it's Tammy's train because I pretty much tied myself to the train when they were taking all the trains away and the tracks, and I heard wind of it. This is our history. We must have a piece of our history here. What can we do? And lo and behold, God bless John Coker. He said, okay, you can have a train. I didn't know what I was going to do with the train. I didn't have a vision, but I knew Cape Charles Main Street could kind of work some magic to move toward that. And thank goodness we've been able to get some grants and support to do that. I don't have a picture, but I can tell you the story. So if you picture where the train is, everybody have that picture kind of in their mind. It's behind the 2 brick buildings on Strawberry Street, and it aligns right with the golf cart path. So the train, we've gotten grant money to get the asbestos abated, the movement of the train in a permanent location. So it's in its permanent location, and we are about to get the metal work completely repaired. And Bill Schramm's going to be talking to the Rotary about perhaps helping us with paint and painting of that. So we're completely, one of our great ideas, see, if you're looking at this, is those windows, rather than replace them with real windows, we're going to replace them with artwork that look like people. So silhouette kind of people on the train, because keeping glass kind of windows is, you know, the ongoing challenge of it gets broken and replacement and all that, and it's super expensive. So we're going to have outside of this all the way around. We're not doing the interior of the train. It's really a mess, and there would take a lot of fun. Not to say we couldn't do it forever and down the road, but we're going to be storyboarding around, so people will be able to walk up and say, "This is how we started. This is when this with the train. This is what evolved in doing that." So this will all be sidewalk around here, seating areas, and different things like that. And if you look to the left in that picture, there's going to be a building that looks like a train station. And it's going to have 5 unisex bathrooms. It's going to have a visitor center and the Cape Charles Main Street offices all in one structure. So these 2 things will tie together. And some people are like, well, why are you putting that in the back of those buildings? Well, that's not going to be the back of the buildings forever. Those 40 acres are going to turn into something. And so as we're working on this, we have to remember the front is not just the front that we do. The back is also going to be the front at some point, because that's going to be the center of our town. So it's exciting. So that's well under its way. We were able to get, we meaning Cape Charles Main Street, we're able to get some great funding through the state as well as through Northampton County. So overall, probably for the train, maybe $70,000 so far. The bathroom, Main Street has earned up to $155,000 toward that project, which took it from a maybe to, okay, that's real, we can do that. So you're going to start to see that this summer come to ground. It's close to 60% at the final architectural drawings. So it's very, very exciting. So I like to say, some of you have probably heard it before, one of the things that Jim and I impassioned ourselves with here when we moved is that we love the history, and we love to talk to people who were born and raised here, or maybe born and raised here but came back here. But most of all, we didn't really like the whole come here from here thing. It kind of bothered me a little bit, because I'm an impassioned come here, let's say, that I know sometimes more than some people who lived here knew about being from here. But I love it. I'm like a sponge. I want to learn more. And we choose here. And I think that's the big thing, is that all of us in one way or another, we didn't get moved here for a job. we chose to come to Cape Charles. If we were born and raised here, we chose to stay here. If we moved away, we chose to come back. And I just like to kind of end that with share a spread the love. That all of us here, you guys are certainly examples of that. I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to this for sure. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know I'm over kind of time a little bit. So
Any questions? It's hard to keep up with the
No
enthusiasm.
question, just a comment.
yes,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
In the 10 years I was involved with heading up the Welcome Center, I would say that many times I stopped off at your
Yes.
bed and breakfast. I think I ran into you 3 times.
Yeah.
And it was a remote relationship.
Yes.
But Tammy, as you can see, had many other things you
The
were
moving
proud of.
target, I
But
always
but
say.
it's been fun.
Yes, it has fun. It's very fun. And, you know, I think people think of a B&B as like you're kind of tethered to it. The reality is you spend time with the guests, you serve them breakfast. They don't want to spend the rest of the day with you. They have plenty to do. So you have a lot of time between 11 and 3 before check-in. Granted, most of it's running my business, but I do spend, that's where my as Bill knows, if there's ever a meeting with Tammy, it's between 11:15 and 2:30. That's my window. That's when Alan would always come and visit. Yes, Jack.
I just have a comment.
Yes.
You remember looking at the election
I
office?
do.
Jenny worked with us 1 year and I could never remember her name.
She what did you call me?
I didn't call you Margaret.
Margaret. She said, Margaret.
She
Margaret. Joking around when she told me that all the time. I love that.
Great work.
Tammy, we have made a donation to the Literacy Council to buy a year's worth of the books for the 5-year-olds who complete the Dolly Parton education. And we will put your name on a
Oh,
little.
great. Thank you. What a wonderful
Thank you.
thing. You guys are awesome. I mean, just incredibly impassioned. My guests probably get tired of me talking about the Rotary, Cape Charles Rotary, and how great you are. Thank you.
And it is absolutely true that I would not be here today. Thank you. I would not be here today, but for Tim. And Gloria and I came, just wanted to kind of get a sense of the town, a little bit of the real estate, that sort of thing. And she realized that we hadn't really connected with anyone who would show us the town. We've been walking around a lot, and I know just the
Well, I had
person.
just seen his condo the day before, and I was like, about it. You're never thinking that it would really.
Right. The whole time Gloria and I are going, oh, no, yeah, I'm a newspaper man.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah, and I was like that, you gotta go.
And the rest was history.
And there we
So
go.
thank you
My
very
pleasure.
much.
And thank you, Bill, for helping me get
Jim,
talk
You
back
did it,
to
you did it.
back to.
I have an announcement, just a reminder, not
Yes.
an announcement. Social committee is supposed to meet after this meeting
Oh, good.
to try and figure out what we're going to do
All right.
for our next social.
Very good. I'm delighted. Okay.
Card.
But it's time. Yes, it is time. No, those are your cards. So it is time for the Queen of Hearts drawing. And the first round is to show your cards. Diamond, ace of diamonds, ace of clubs. Who else? Who else have we got? Good, good, good,
Got
good,
it.
good, good, good. What do you have? Oh my God. No. I'll be the arbiter. You get to come up to the front. And no, I just need cards. I don't need you to give a color. There you go. There you go. All right, so Who's got the high card?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the entire collected today was $35, so half of that or $18 goes to the club, and then $9 goes to the winner. So
And
I'll
nine,
go for the queen.
and 9 goes into the pot, and the pot is how much?
9, and you get to draw from the Queen of Hearts deck, and the pot's about $80-$90.
What?
Very nice.
There you go.
And you get to draw from the deck that's getting smaller every week.
Oh, Jim.
Okay.
What'd you get?
Same card I had.
Tennis bag. The deck gets smaller and the pot gets bigger.
That's right. Next week, probably we'll see. Everyone, please rise to the Rotary. Is it the truth? Is it fair? Will it build goodwill and friendships? Will it be beneficial? All right, stand.
Will we have Tammy join the club because we like to have fun?
Service of ourselves. Thank you. Thank you.